Today I'm going to be going over the conversions between the different forms, such as rectangular form, polar form, exponential, and trig form. And also show you how to check your polar and rectangular form calculations on your calculator. So starting with the rectangular form, it's in the form of a plus b j, or I, depending on the notation, where a is the real component of it, and b is the imaginary component, and basically just the intersection of these points is where the coordinate is. So, and then polar form, it has an angle and a length. So in order to find the length that's known as r, we have to use the Pythagorean theorem. So first, let's first draw out a sketch of this problem. So we have z equals -5, -3j. So it's to the 5 left. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's down 1, 2, 3. And then basically just perpendicular lines, and the intersection is where the point is, or where the angle is. So now we can find our length r. So r equals the square root of a squared plus b squared, which equals the square root of -5 squared plus -3 squared. When you're putting this in your calculator, if you do put a negative, which isn't necessary, make sure that you have the negative inside of brackets, or else you'll get an error or a mistake. So this gives us, where'd my calculator go? Gives us approximately 5.83. So this is about 5.83. And now we need to find this, need to find this angle here. Need to find this angle here. So we can use our tan in order to find this. So the inverse of tan of our b over a will give us the angle. So that would be inverse tan of -3 for -5, and that gives us an angle of about 31 degrees. But if you look at our drawing here, that doesn't quite look right, because our angle is in the third quadrant, so it should be a lot greater than that. So what we have to do is add 180 degrees. So basically this angle here is 31 degrees, and we're moving over 180 degrees, so we have to add that to our answer. So we add 180 equals 200, and what's that? 211 degrees. And now we can check this with our calculator. Oh. So what you do is you go to modes, you go 3 for complex, and if you see that xy, that means you're in rectangular form. So we had -5 for our real part, and then we had -3 for our j, so we hit the DMS button here to add our j. And as you can see, it's just giving us the same thing we put into that. That's because we have it in rectangular form. So now what you do is you hit second functions, and you hit this r theta, because the r theta, that's the symbol for the polar form. If you hit that, it'll give us 5.83, which is what we got. and then this negative 149, which isn't the proper form, but if we were to check, 149 plus 360 gave us 211, and that's what we got for our answer. So next up, so that was part A. Next up we have our trig form, or sorry, exponential form. So our exponential form is z equals r to the e theta or j theta, depending on where they put the j. So we've already found our r equals 5.83, so z equal 5.83. Then we have e, then our angle theta, this is where we have to make a change. So theta equals 211 degrees, but in exponential form, we want to have that in radians. So we do 211 degrees times, what is it? Sorry, yeah, times 2 pi over 360, or pi over 180, it's the same thing. So 211 times 2 pi divided by 360 equals about 3.7 or so. So that would mean our angle is J 3.7. I'm just keeping a couple significant digits here just to make it easier, but on your tests, I'd just keep 3 significant digits or more to be safe. Alright, and then finally we have the trig form. So the trig form is z equals r cos theta plus j sine theta. So we already know our r is 5.83. And then cos, we can either use the radians. I'm going to use the angle here. If it specifies, just do what it specifies. And that's all you have to do. So converting between exponential form, polar form, and trig form is all pretty simple. You just sub in the values. So next up we have our polar form, and we want to convert this to exponential form. So we have 8 angle 230, just 200 degrees. So we have to turn that angle into radians. You could also do this using your calculator, but I'm just going to do just multiply by 2 pi divided by 360 degrees equals 3.49 is our angle. So we would just have z equals our r value, which is this 8, e to the power of j 3.49. Normally for this you'd be seeing like a fraction of pi, like pi over 2, pi over 4, but just these numbers don't work out perfectly for that, so that's why we have that as our angle. Now we want to convert this to trig form. So our trig form is z equals r, lowercase, r cos theta plus j sine theta. We already have our r, which is 8, so just be 8, and we have our angle, cos 200 degrees plus j sine 200 degrees. Now finally, we go to rectangular form. So this is where we use the trig form in order to calculate it out. So basically, we just multiply this expression and simplify it. So we have our z equals 8 cos 200 degrees plus j sine 200 degrees. So I'll multiply that in and multiply that in as well. And this equals, so 8 cos of 200 equals negative 7.52 plus, and then we have 8 sine of 200. And always be careful and make sure your calculator is on the right units as well. So then we have minus 2.736 J. And that's our polar form. And we can just do a quick sketch to not check our answer, but make sure it's along the right tracks. So we had an angle of 200 degrees, so we'd have 90, 180, and then somewhere over here in this third quadrant. So it makes sense that we have a negative value here for our real component and a negative value for our j component as well. Now we have an example. Oh, I guess I can also show you how to check this on your calculator. So yeah, you go to 3 for complex, and then we have to make sure to change this. So we have to go second function to r theta, and we had 8, and then see above this xy button there's an angle. So I believe you hit second function, and that gives you your angle, and we had an angle of 200 degrees. Hit equals. Oh, and it's converting into the negative angle again. Then we hit second function to xy, and there we go. We had negative 7 and negative 2.73 or so, and that's what we got. So that's a good way to check your answer. Alright, and now we have another example. Convert this to polar form. So we have our r value, so it'd be 6, and the angle, it doesn't, unless specified, we can have our angle in radians as well. So you'd have 6 angle pi over 4, or we could have 6 angle 45 degrees. I believe that's what that is. Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's 45 degrees. So either of these answers are fine. If it doesn't specify, then I would just do the radians, but if it says to have it in degrees, then have it in degrees. Okay, now we have our trig form. So trig form, we have our r value, which is 6, and then we have cos either pi over 4. Let's just do pi over 4 plus j sine pi over 4, and that is our trig form. And then finally rectangular form, we multiply this in. So we have 6 cos pi over 4 plus 6j sine pi over 4. And if we're using radians, make sure that you have your calculator set to radians. So 6 cos of 45, or pi over 4, it would be 4.2 plus and then it'll also be plus 4.24j. I guess that makes sense because the angle is a 45 degree angle, since they're both equal. We can, so there isn't an exponential form on the calculator, but we can, so we could put it to our polar form, hit second function, go to r theta, and then we had, was it 8 or 6? 6 second function angle. And when you're doing this, make sure you have it in the right mode, same as with the other calculator functions. So since I have this in degrees right now, I'm just going to do 45 degrees. And then we'll hit our second function, then 9 for the xy to convert it into rectangular form, and as you can see we have 4.24 for our real component and 4.24 for the imaginary component. Okay, and then finally we have an example with the trig form. So converting this into polar, pretty simple. So we have our 3, and then we have our r value and our angle. So it'd just be 3 angle 60, or sorry, I should do z equals that. And then b, exponential, would just be our z equals the r value, so it'd be 3 e to the power of the angle, but we have to convert that angle, so 60 degrees times 2 pi over 360 equals pi over 3. So it'd be 60 j pi over 3. Now rectangular, we just multiply it in, so we have z equals 3 cos 60 plus j sine 60. So you have 3 and this gives us 1.5 plus plus 2.6 j or I. And this makes sense because our angle is 60 degrees, so it'd be about here. That's our r. And so if we had it up 1.5 and or sorry, 1.5 to the right and 2.6 up, it would look something like that. Okay, so that wraps up on how to convert between these different forms. Now check with your calculator. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know, and have a great day.